Now, one thing I want to show you just before we go any further, and that is that things don't look too bad. Nice clean lines around the cab here, except when we go over here, and we've got no definition at all on this side because of the light. You can't see where these are. This is the cab light. Here's the air conditioning there. You can't see any of that over this side properly. So what you want to do is just put perhaps a temporary texture in there to give it some form of pre-lighting. Now, what I'm going to show you is rather a barbaric way of doing it, but it will enable you to see those corners. So let's go into Blender and just see what we're going to do. So here we are in Blender, and you saw the problem sometimes with the overexposure in Train Sim, and this is why you need to sort of pre-shade the materials. Now, I'm not going to pre-shade everything, just really the sort of cab shell, or cab cage as I call it, which is the sort of ducting and all that is around here. If we put a bit of shading in so you can see these corners, hopefully it will make the cab clearer even with that sort of lighting. Obviously you want to do that with all your materials. Some of these buttons will be okay against the dark background, and the dials will stand out and all things like that, so that will be fine. We'll just do the cage, and with that in mind, let me switch this off. You'll see what I mean by the cage, and this is it. It's that ducting. It's the solid cage. I don't know whether it's almost like a crash cage to protect the driver as well. I'm not sure of that, but there it is. And you know, at the moment it's just got those temporary textures on there, and they're all one texture. They're that temporary texture, which is something like a 60 by 4 by 64 multi coloured image. So what we're going to do, we're going to bake them. Right, what we want to do then, first up, is we want to go to the UV maps, and we want a new UV map to use for the baking. Okay, so we just simply go plus there, and I'm going to call it bake. Okay, and you want to do that for all of the elements that you're going to bake, and I've got them all here. I've actually added them, what I call cage. Okay, this is what I call the cage. Okay, and I've added all the elements that form that cage, and I've simply added them to this collection. Okay, so if we have a look at this back door, you can see it's in cab structure, and it's also in this cage bakes. So you want to do that and separate off the ones that you're going to bake. It just makes it easier than trying to find them in the main collection there. So what do? Like I say, we go through and we make that second UV called bake. Okay, you'll notice it's not on. Okay, the little camera symbol symbolizes when it's actually on. Okay, so leave it on UV map, but select the bake. Okay, so just click on bake on all of them. Okay, because generally when you do create your new UV, which is going to be a single image for all of these structures, you want it to be on the right UV map. So there we go. I'm going to select bake. Yeah, I've selected for all of them. Now let's go into UV editing, Now you can see I've actually got an image here. What you would normally do is you'd go image, new image, okay, and then we would call this cage bake. You can call it what you want, you know, cage bake. You don't need an alpha. There's no alphas attached to any of the materials here. You just select that 1024 by 1024. You can make it. You don't want it too big because you've got a budget that you have to keep to with the images, and then you just OK that. Okay, and I won't do that because I've already got one here that I created earlier, so to speak, and there it is, and I've actually baked onto it. But I'm going to redo it, and you'll see I'm going to tell it to clear the image before it starts to bake. Okay, so that's then the image. We've got the image. So what do we want to do? Well, let's select everything here. So let's go to that one and that one. Okay, we've got it all selected. Let's go into edit mode. Okay, so edit mode, there we go, and this is in a sense lined up. I'll do it again though. In fact, not all of it's lined up. We've got a cross there, which is going to probably be that handle. So what we want to do then is there's all sorts of ways of manipulating UVs here. If it's straightforward, you can put seams on it to splay it open as you want. For this, I'm going to simply use the Smart UV. Okay, I've also got an add-on called UV Pack Master. I'm not plugging this, by the way, but that is it really allows you to manipulate the UVs to get the maximum out of it. You don't need it. I'm not using that for this at all, but that works quite well. The other thing is I've got another one called Simple Bake. That's another one that makes the baking process a little bit easier, but obviously they are paid ones, and you know, I'll say, well, they're only £10, but that's a lot of money to a lot of people. So it's not they're only £10, but they're around the £10 mark or $10 mark. Yeah, I'm wary that some of you may be at school, college, or whatever, and $10 or £10 might represent quite an investment. So you can do it with what's in Blender. You can do anything with what's in Blender. They just speed up the workflow, these add-ons. That's all. Right, let me get back to here then. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Smart UV. Okay, we want to change this island margin. That's the separation between all of these little islands, as they call them. They're islands. I won't say faces because they're amalgamation of faces at times. So let's go 005. Okay, there we go, and we'll OK that, and there we go. It's unwrapped it. Okay, so it's all separate now. Now there's a lot of black space, and that's where sometimes the add-ons can do that automatically for you. But you know, where you've got something that's quite large and it's not given much space, you could put it elsewhere in the image and just scale it up, so you can manipulate the UVs to suit. Don't lose the aspect ratio of it, otherwise if you've got any recurring texture or whatever, it will distort it. So always do it symmetrically when you scale. Don't do it, you know, just in the X direction or anything like that. Okay, so that's it. I've got it all selected. I've done the UV unwrap. Okay, now what do we have to do? Right, for each material, luckily I've only got one, and we've only got one here, but for each material you're now going to need to add a image texture, a material. Right, Now you would normally save that image, okay, just save. I've saved it to the right place, but don't forget you'll need to tell it where to save, so save as, and I've put it in the common folder there. Okay, so save your image, then go select, you can select any one here, and you just go to shading. Okay, so this is looking at temp matte diffuse. That's the only one that they all use, that temp matte diffuse, so it doesn't matter. But if they all use different ones, you're going to have to do an image for each of the elements that you're doing. Now I might have one created. No, I haven't. You can see the diffuse, temp matte diffused already has that that image texture. There it's using one called class 700 temp. So you just want to make a new image texture. You just add and texture, and there we go, image texture. Okay, and for this one you want to select the image. Then the image is this one here, cage bake. Now that's all you have to do, but you do need it selected. Just make sure it is highlighted around the edge there with a wire. Okay, just make sure. It doesn't have to be connected to anything, just make sure. But you will need to do that for each of these elements. As they're all using just one material, one texture, I don't need to do it. But if they were using different ones, you'd have to create one for each of them. Okay, so that's done, that's selected. Just make sure that's selected, otherwise it will throw out an error. Right, so let's go back to UV editing. Okay, let's select everything. Let's have a look. Have we got it all selected? No, we haven't. So let me go back and select all. And yep, there we go. Make sure, yeah, everything's selected. Okay, so we've created that the UVs marked bake, the second UVs. Okay, we've unwrapped it using the UV unwrap, this one here, the smart UV project, and we've created our image texture, which we've selected. We've highlighted it. Okay, we've selected. So that is it. We're good to go there. Let me go back to UV editing, and now we shouldn't have any trouble. If we go here, oh, just first off, no good doing it now. We've got no lighting on it. Now this is when I said about crude, a crude way of doing it. It's because I've just got a sphere here with an emit texture, so it's got an emission material on it. Let me just select it, and let's just click on that, and you can see it's just called plain light, and it says emission, and I've got it set to 3. That you'll have to play with till you get it looking how you want to. Now I have put an inner one here, but I'm not sure the value of that, so I'm not going to use it for now. That was to get into places there that may not, the big sphere might not hit, but I'm going to leave it out because I think it might just overexpose it at the moment. I'll try it anyway and see what it looks like. So there we go. So we've got this light being emitted by this all the way around here. Okay, the other thing we need, if we look up here at the render tab, if we go down to light paths, we need to make sure this one is selected. Now if you've done any baking or any work in Blender, there used to be a setting in the world settings called ambient occlusion, okay, and that bounces light in those hard to reach places, and it gets in the crevices and things like that. That's not there anymore on version 3 of Blender, so this has taken its place, this setting here, which is the fast GI approximation. So we've got AO factor there and AO distance, so again you could play about with that to get the look that you want. I'm going to go for a very crude look. I don't care, as long as I can see it. It doesn't matter if it's a bit ropey, don't mind. Right, okay, so there we go. We've got the light on then. We've got, let's select, go back now and select them again. There we go. And go into edit mode. Okay, make sure, press A to make sure it's all selected. Yep. Okay, and let's bake. So let's go down to here, which is the bake. I'm going to clear image, so it clears off that that one underneath there. Margin 3%. Now, as well as the margin between the islands, which is this distance here. Okay, there's also this margin, which is this distance here. So how far around the island that the material extends. Okay, so that's that. I've set it to 3, might even go as low as 2, but that's set. So we should be okay to go. So let's now press bake and let's see what happens. There we go. It tells me that the texture is baking, and basically it's going to do that for each one of these. Okay, and I'll just bring that out because I'll speed it up after the first one, but you'll see on the first one this will go black again, so it'll start afresh and it'll start building up the baked material. There we go, it's gone black and we've just got the first element there that's been baked. Okay, the rest has gone back to black. So that will now go through and it will bake all those materials. So let's fast forward. So here we are, it's baked all the materials now. It told us to save the image. Okay, so we just go either save as or save. I've saved it before, so I'll just go save. Okay, it's saved it in the right place. Remember that common folder which has got textures in. It's done that. Okay, now let's have a look. Let's go to layout. Okay, there it is. I'll take the lighting off, we don't need it. Now it doesn't look much different, does it? No, because this is not the baked material. We've got to put that on. So what we want to do then, let's go here, and now we want to switch across to our baked material. Okay, so just switch now across. There we go, there we go, and it will look terrible. Yeah. Okay, why? Because it's not using the baked material. So we've selected the UV, so that's the common UV. We've selected that, but if we go to materials, it says we're using temp matte diffuse. That's not what we want. So what I'm going to do, just select any of the items that you're going to use. Just plus and make a new material, and I'm going to call this material cage bake, all one word, doesn't matter. Again, you call it what you want, but I'll call it cage bake. Let's get rid of that temp matte diffused, and there is the cage bake. But we've got to again point to the image, okay, because it's looking for an image texture. Let's go up here into common, into texture, and there should be one marked cage bake. There we go. Open that, and now that is our baked material. We might be able to see it now. You can see that there's a sort of darkness in that join there. Okay, that's sort of showing that there's you know, it's got a little bit of shadow. Okay, so we would now want to go through and we want to select our baked material. So let's we called it cage bake. There we go. We just go through and change all of this over to cage bake. There we go. And now we've got these ones. Okay, and don't forget to do them all. That. there. Okay, did I do the door? Yes, I did. Door handle, no. Cage bake, there we go. And we just do this. There we go, and I think it's just this one is the last one. And cage bake, there we go. So now what we've got here is our baked material. Okay, and it's not too bad. You could take it into Photoshop or photo editing program, and you can tidy it up a bit if you wanted. I'm going to leave it like that because I just want it to be seen when we're in the cab. I'm not bothered about it looking a bit rough as long as we can see it. And so you could take that into Photoshop. You could export the UVs. Okay, the UV map, export you've already exported the material, and then you could take them both in and take the UV as a layer. That will give you a guide to the separate sections, so you're not bleeding over into another area if you sort of paint it. So you could do it in Photoshop, or you can even do it. You can even do it in Blender here. You know, you can just choose texture paint. Okay, and you can, let me see, where are we? Let's get a paintbrush. Let's get a color or something like that, and you can literally paint on your material here in Blender. I'm going to undo there. There we go. Okay, so you could do it either in an external program or you can do it within Blender. So now let me come out of that then before I do paint something, and that's it. So there we have it. There is our just make sure, yeah, there is our baked material. So now let me bring this up. Okay, so there it is in the context of that. Now I'm just looking, and I think what we've done is I've not associated the baked material with the texture in shading. So if I go to shading now and let me choose something that's using that temp matte diffused, okay, and you'll see, in fact, there we go. Well, that's okay. That's all right. It's just, let's have a look down here. Oh, we're all right now because yes, okay. But what we do want to do is select our material here. Okay, so we want cage bake. Yep, there we go, and just make sure that that is connected to the color, which it is. So we're all okay there. So yes, I thought for a minute it was wrong, although it is wrong. Now let me, I've got something selected that I shouldn't have swapped over. There it is. That's it. So let me go back and put that back to temp matte diffused. That's it. Okay. Yep. And that's what I did done down there when the desk looked a bit funny. Was I'd got the wrong one selected there. Okay. So let me go to layout. That's it. And it all looks okay. Yeah, we've got our baked material there. Okay, so let's now take this into Train Sim and have a look. Now we want to do the same up here with the ceiling, and in fact I have done the same with the ceiling. Let me just, there we go. I have done the same with the ceiling. Okay, and I've actually baked this. Okay, so this has actually been baked. So let's select all. There we go, and let's save it. Let's export IGS. There we go. Now, before we do that, of course, let me select that, because we need to make sure the material has a shader, and at the moment it hasn't. So let me select diffuse. You could make it shiny. Actually, it probably is shiny, this inside, because it's like a painted metal. I'll leave it as diffuse for now anyway. So we want cage bake, don't we? That's it. So that's all okay, so it should work. If I select all now, and let's just save it out. So there we go. Export. Oh no, that's IA. So let's go up. That's it. IGS and export, and it looks like it's exported okay. Now I think it might have thrown up an error there about the LOD settings, and that's because I haven't got them named up there, some of them. So that's fine. Let's go and have a look at this in Train Sim. Right, before we go into Train Sim, of course, we've got to save it in the blueprint editor. So go to the blueprint editor. Now just make sure that that bake you just did, make sure that you've made an ACE of it. So where are we? Cage bake. There we go. So okay that, and convert it. There we go. It's converted it to ACE. So now the blueprint editor should treat it okay. There we go. It's exporting. Okay, I'm hiding the results of the export here, but never mind. It's going through. You can see it's going through. So that's okay. So now let's go into Train Sim and just have a look around the cab. So here we are in the cab. Let's have a look. Okay, there we go. It's a rough bake, but what you can see now is that we've got our edges showing. Now the thing is to have a look on the other side, and there we go. So what before was completely sort of whited out, and in fact it still is on this one, which really needs rebaking again, and I'll tell you why. But here we can now see the whole of the cab. Okay, you can play about with the lighting, texture and all of that in your bakes. Okay, but now we can see there's a lot we can't see. Some of these we're not able to see, and if I put a light on, you would see that there'd be some definition in there, but we've not got that at the moment. I'm not bothered about that at the moment. Mainly it's so that we can see around the cab and we're not losing the detail on these edges. So there it is. That is it. I'm just looking. There should be a break there, but again it's this overexposure. You can't see, but where you've got here, which look like two bits of metal joined together, should be that here, but it's so overexposed you can't actually see it. And that's the advantage of doing that sort of pre-rendering, so that you can see where these edges are. Okay, I said it was crude. It's not brilliant, but it will do us for now. So that's it. Like I say, the ceiling just followed the same lines as the cage. There you do exactly the same, just a pointer. Why I'm losing definition here is in fact twofold. I think I might have a light there that I left in when I was adjusting things, but also with the bake, I went in. There was a bit of a problem like this here, which I painted out, and I painted it such that it was brilliant white, which was probably not the best thing to do because it looks overexposed. So I might redo that, and if you do it and follow the same lines as you did before, you'll see it will all look defined. The only thing I can see that I haven't got here is the texture for these screws, which they should have a separate texture on them, but obviously I've done something there that that isn't quite right. But anyway, that is the basics of baking that material. You're baking it into one image, one material, okay? And the idea is you want to get as much in that bake as possible, but keep the definition. So you need to choose what parts you want to bake together. Okay, I chose to do the cage. Probably would have been wise to do that door as well, include that in it, but I didn't. And the desk and bits here perhaps want to be done separately. You can see, to be honest, at least with the desk you can actually see that it's actually defined reasonable in this lighting. Okay, you can see it, so you can choose to either leave it or go in and pre-shade your materials. As I say, the DLC is out there now of a class 700, so you don't actually need to use this for an actual vehicle. You could go and get the DLC, but if you did want to use it as a vehicle, then you might want to start to bake some of these materials to get them to look more realistic. Okay, so that's it then. Let's move on to getting the cab light and the spotlight and the lights in the cab working. We'll do that first, and let's get on with that.